This is gonna be funny.
Okay, guys, so here we are at an undisclosed location. I bet you none of you can guess where it's at. But Jason's going to talk a little bit about what he does with his servos and how important it is on putting those in there and how they're set up.
Yeah, so we've all been setting up an airplane. Of course, it says, you know, bind a receiver to your radio, set up, blah, 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 blah. So 9 times out of 10, you'll have the receiver already mounted in the plane, ready to go in the fuselage, and you're setting up a wing. Then you have to tote the fuselage from across the shop and get it on the bench and get it all set up. So working with Magazine for years, we always didn't always necessarily have a timeline that would afford us a bunch of extra time. So
in other words, it was really short.
It was like, hey, get the plane on Thursday, we got to fly it by Friday. So I came up with this system of setting up servos that actually works really well, and if you follow it and do it, 9 times out of 10, you don't even have to really turn on the plane before you get to the field. You just go out, turn it on, do your minor sub-trim adjustments, you're ready to go. You don't have to take any arms off or anything like that. So what we have, I got a brand new JR89 or S8911 servo, and I got a new arm from Extreme Flight here, and a 2-inch arm. This is going to be one of the stabs on the
like this one,
on the yak. So, and then I've got here a JR Matchmaker. Now this one's ancient. I mean, it's got pieces missing, but this is a permanent fixture in the shop. It's always attached to this battery. I charge this battery probably once a year because it doesn't draw a lot. It's just used for setup. So the cool thing about the Matchmaker is you got this little wheel down here that rolls, and it has a detent in the middle. That's your center stick, your centering of your servo. If I was setting up a competition plane like the Dalton back there, I'd have all 8 servos out, and I'd have all 8 or maybe even 20 arms, and I'd be setting them up trying to find the best match, because we want as little sub trim as possible to make our servos as accurate as possible.
But 90 degrees as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Perpendicular. So on this one, this servo is going to mount lying this way with the arm coming up. So I'm going to set my orientation here. You take your battery. This is just a 2-cell LiPo. Plug it in where it says bat. Take your servo. Plug it into either 3 or 4, and we'll talk about why 3 or 4 here in just a second. Let it do its centering, which it just did, and servo's active now, as you can see. Got it on the detent in the center, so my servo's good.
Yeah.
So I loosened up the clamping nut there. So anyway, so now I start close to 90, and I find the teeth of the servo. They're right there. That's a little ways out, you can see. And then we're gonna go the other way with it and see which one's closer. That one's definitely much closer. So we're gonna go ahead and slide that down.
I just realized, depending on which side you use, you're going to be off on one side as compared. The other side might be perfectly 90.
Exactly.
And when you go to the other side, it might be at 1 or 2 degrees.
So then we pop it down. We're a few degrees off. We're 4 or 5, so that will take some sub trim. But the nice thing about being this close is now, of course, if I were, you know, doing this 100%, I'd have all my Loctite out. And my rule when I'm actually building the plane is I don't stop a step until it's done. Like I wouldn't put this screw in without Loctite and then set it aside, because 9 times out of 10 I'll forget it. So then you tighten everything down and we'd put it in the plane. Like you said, sometimes arms will work one way or the other. So I would lay out the servos and I'd say, okay, I need 4 with arms this way, 4 with arms that way, and I'd try the arm this way, it doesn't work, try it this way, okay, it's perfect. Then I'd go down the line and get them as close as possible.
Yeah.
With this one, we don't necessarily have that luxury. I've got, you know, 7 servos and 7 arms, so we're just gonna set it up as close as possible. But the nice thing is now, once the arm's on and I know it's square like it is here, I can hold my control surface. I could tape this level, and I could use my wrench to adjust my turnbuckle until the servo's exactly square. Then the first time I plug it into the receiver and I turn the radio on, if the servo's a little, or if the surface is a little bit off, I know it's not a linkage problem or an arm problem. I go into my sub trim it to 0, and I know this is 90. I know everything's set how it needs to be, and we're ready to fly. So that's just a nice way. Like I said, a lot of times when we were really crammed on time, I would show up and, you know, I may have had 10 minutes in the driveway to get everything close, but sometimes I didn't. And I would come out, turn it on for the first time. Obviously, I already knew it would bind. I would bind it first. But I would do my sub trims, make sure all the surfaces were flush how they should be, and we'd fly.
You know, and I like how you use the Matchmaker, because obviously you have a lot of those in the planes, and you've been JR. When I used to set them up, I actually used the high-tech programmer.
You can do that too with the newer servos, and you can program them. So
well, I mean, not so much. I didn't use them so much like if I was doing a JR or you know a Futaba servo. I wouldn't use it to program it, but the nice thing is I could center just like you do. It was the exact same setup, and you know, you had a control there, and you could set it at 90 degrees. You know that was the center.
Exactly.
And boom, you're there. So
the other feature that this has, we were talking about, so 3 and 4 are a manual input, and the other thing is I can actually use this to set up my throw and make sure I'm getting the amount of throw I want.
Yeah.
The other thing it has is 1 and 2 are actually a servo tester mode. So you plug it in, once the servo initializes, now it starts moving through the full range. It's going 100% to 100%. And I can put a little load on it, make sure I don't have a gear problem. So that's good for if you have a servo that's sitting in the shop and you're thinking about putting it in a plane, you want to make sure the servo's still good. You hook it up to the matchmaker and you just, you know, put a little load on it and you know you're good and you can be confident putting that in your airplane. So these are sold, DFA, D-Force Aviation, JR, is still selling these matchmakers. I've talked to Mooney and Tamahisa, and I know they have some of these in stock and they're still producing them. And they work for all servos. Yeah. You know, they have a JR connector, but if you have the Futaba with the little J connector with the little thing sticking out, it actually, well, you can clip it or you can actually separate the case a little bit and it'll slide in. So, but yeah, I use this for everything. This is a lifesaver as far as setting things up. So,
reducing time.
Yep, and getting your servos as close as possible. So that's just something I do to make things go quicker.
Well, there it is, guys. So a little tip on setting up your servos and getting them ready to go before you actually install them. Makes setup time a lot shorter in the end. Make sure that everything works good and all your geometry is much closer this way when you're done. So again, hit that subscribe button. Leave any comments down below. Anything you'd like to learn about or something that we didn't quite cover that you have a question on, please leave that below. We will definitely answer that. Other than that, we will see you soon.
Thanks, guys.